Hi, everyone. Welcome to session B6, the Business Leadership Roundtable, the year ahead for our customers. It is my great pleasure to welcome Michael Kaufman, who is the co-chair of the Menus of Leadership Council, as well as partner of the Astor Group, to take us through the session. Michael, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and welcome to our Business Leadership Roundtable. Well, good news is that we are blessed with an extraordinarily talented and experienced panel. The bad news is that we are burdened by only 30 minutes to spend with them. So we're all going to try to move this along as efficiently as possible so we can glean as many valuable insights from each panelist as time allows. If you wish to pose a question, please submit that on chat. I can't guarantee, though, that we'll get to all the questions. Biographies of the panelists are available on the Menus of Change website, but I will give a brief intro of each before the first question. So let's get into it. So Sarah, first question to you. Sarah serves as the Vice President, Food Values, Sustainability, and Public Affairs at Panera, where she manages strategy for a wide range of issues, including nutrition, sustainability, and societal impact. And she is a member of the Menus of Change Business Leadership Council. So Sarah, the first question to you and to each of the panel members is, in this time of COVID, how is Panera's business doing? How's your business doing? And what are your expectations for the coming year?
Thanks, Michael. I would share that I think, like many brands probably who are watching, our business is down. We fall into the interesting category of businesses that actually follow a trajectory similar to casual dining rather than maybe a QSR. And I think a lot of those variables have to do with kind of location and where you are compared residential versus sales trade areas, and as well as just accessibility and things like drive-thrus and accessibility overall. What I really see as an outlook is we've moved up substantially since kind of peak crisis time, and we're continuing to have our business come back. However, I would say we are expecting kind of a rocky up and down fall as COVID numbers, et cetera, change. And as we see consumer behavior still be in really an interesting time, especially with school closures, et cetera, there's a lot of different things that are actually keeping people home rather than taking them, again, back into work or back into other trade areas.
Thanks, Sarah. So Scott, we'll go to you. Scott Uline is Vice President of Product Innovation and Development for Sonic Drive-In, overseeing the Sonic team of culinary experts. Previously, he was head of Culinary for Canyon Ranch Resorts, a CIA alum, and member of the Business Leadership Council. So Scott, same question, time of COVID, how's Sonic doing, and what are your expectations for the coming year?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Obviously, we have a bit of a different business model than some other restaurants do. I mean, we are a drive-in as well as drive-through. A very small percentage of our system actually has indoor dining. So we've been impacted a little bit differently. And we also have a dynamic app. So what we've seen is we've seen a huge surge in app usage. As you can imagine, I'm sure everybody in the industry who has that app. Yeah, so it's been actually a very interesting time. I mean, at the height of the pandemic, when there were times when jurisdictions were not allowing more than 10 people in one room at one time, it was very interesting for our operators because, of our sustained business and not allowed to have a lot of people in a restaurant preparing food. So I know it's been tough for our franchisees and our system. We've had our supply chain challenges like everybody else has. So it has been a much different trajectory. Looking forward, I think that Sarah's right. I mean, we don't in many ways know what to expect as this continues to evolve, but we will have to be prepared for just about anything.
Thanks, Scott. Marie, we'll go to you next. Marie Mold is Account Executive for Client Solutions at Data Central, and she has a strong background in both nutrition and business. And she brings Data Central unique culinary perspective and health-driven point of view, also a member of the Business Leadership Council. And Marie, I just have to say thank you from the industry to Data Central for bringing so much extraordinary insight and strategy to the industry for free. And that's been an amazing for all of us, and a huge thank you to Data Central. So Marie, you might not talk about a particular brand, but perhaps you can comment on how you're seeing the industry at this moment and your expectations for the year.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So, if anyone tuning in had a chance to catch Jack's presentation prior to this, we've been surveying consumers and operators since March 10th. So very much the onset of all of this. I think we've talked with 70,000 plus consumers at this point. And one metric I think is interesting is we've asked, how do you feel about eating out? And since mid-April, we saw a steady decline in this notion of I'm definitely avoiding eating out. It's like it was clear that people wanted to get back to restaurants. And now in mid-July, we actually saw a blip in that. It's kind of increased again, where people are avoiding restaurants because of the increase in cases. But generally, on the whole, we really see interest from the population in getting back to restaurants, and also very much this underlying tone of positivity and helpfulness. People want to get back to restaurants. They want to tip their servers more, or visit more, or leave positive reviews to help bring guests back into restaurants to kind of, help bring the industry back. Because everyone loves restaurants and they mean so much more to us than just food. The experience goes far beyond that.
Great, thank you, Marie. So next up is Brad Nelson. Brad is Vice President, Global Culinary Portfolio at Marriott International. He oversees 30 brands across luxury, premium, and select service segments, with an estimated Marriott International portfolio of over 10,000 restaurants. He is also a CIA alum and a member of the Business Leadership Council. Brad, same question. How is your business going? And maybe focusing on domestic, but give us some sense internationally as well.
Sure, thanks, Michael. And I guess I'll have to parse my words as to how business is actually going. It's tough days out there, obviously, as we all know, and it's particularly tough in the travel industry, and particularly tough on the travel industry that is relying on airplanes to be full and conventions to happen and people to be taking trips and wanting to get out. So it is a multifaceted challenge that we actually saw early in January, even late December in China, and we were watching it closely. We were projecting, but nobody could project for what's happened. Globally, we continue to watch in Asia and see how things are going there, and use that as a bit of a marker, and sometimes a marker of hope, and sometimes a marker of terror, as to what's the outcome, or what is the path of this virus. And currently, it's a very mixed path. And I think it was said earlier, I think even Maria just mentioned that, we saw some confidence late in June, and in July it started to fade away. So we're definitely seeing a challenging environment for hotel guests, a challenging environment for food and beverage. Much of our food and beverage is built around conventions and whatnot. Those aren't happening. So yeah, it's pretty tough out there.
It is tough. Wow. Thank you, Brent. And last, certainly but not least, Kim Bartley, Senior Advisor of Culinary for White Castle. Formerly, she is the Chief Marketing Officer for the White Castle system. And her current responsibilities include oversight, development of product innovation, business intelligence, and her favorite project of the year is leading the White Castle 100th birthday celebration planning, which is awesome, Kim. So same question to you. How's business, and what are your thoughts about the coming year?
Well, I think part of the benefits we have is almost being 100 years old. We've been through a few other crises along the way, and we have long memories in our company. So that actually did prove to help us as we were identifying how to prioritize actions. We're doing well. Our team members were our critical focus, I think, from that standpoint, making sure that they were taken care of first, and then we focused on the safety of our customers. Our menu mix is a little bit different. We go between individual combos, but then we also have large orders similar to a pizza chain might have. So a lot of our change in our business model came from the delivery. We had rolled out delivery a year ago, and we're seeing significant use of it this year through the app, through delivery companies, and the focus on eating and staying at home. So with that difference of our menu, we just shifted awareness and focus on particular parts of our menu. Majority of our locations are drive-through, and that helps as well, obviously, in this situation. We've not seen, even when we opened our dining rooms, we're not seeing a big shift inside the restaurants. To Marie's point, we're seeing a lot of consumers who want to go out to restaurants, but with this emotional roller coaster we're all on, are we open, are we closed, is it safe, isn't it safe? We're finding all the research we're seeing is that consumers are still hesitating. And, you know, in this environment, projecting to the future, it's going to be up and down. And as leaders, we just have to be really flexible.
Mm. So Kim, let's stick with you. As you look at the last 4 months, have you seen any food lessons for the future that you have taken to heart for White Castle?
Yeah, well, delivery was a critical focus. So anything that we were planning on looking at in terms of the quality of our products during delivery, because that shifts in terms of how hot a product is in delivery, as well as the packaging. We accelerated all of that as around our menu and our team members for safety. In addition to that, we put the focus on the products that we could deliver fast, because we did have longer drive-through lines. And so our communication and our delivery was around those types of products. So the core product, which is what we're known for, just accelerated on the menu and to our team members. The other part of that is what we're seeing in the research is consumers want comfort food right now. And so it's really looking at the things that they, you know, want to have. And then the ability to scale up and scale down the quantities in our restaurant benefited us at the same time.
That's great. Brad, how about you? Last 4 months, are there lessons from the food perspective that you are taking to heart?
You know, I would say that there are more opportunities that are becoming known. You know, in terms of lessons and what's happened in our business and whatnot, you know, again, I pretty much drop it off the cliff. But if we look at what people are looking towards in terms of importance, I think this heightened sense of impact, your personal impact on the environment, on the community, on the world. I think it skews a little younger, but I think clearly this is the opportunity actually for a real stronger sense on the integrity of the food, its path to the plate, its impact on the world. You know, right now we are truly in kind of a cost conversation. But within that cost conversation is actually a value for cost. And I think this is the opportunity for the business to really rethink what's on the plate. And we're seeing our customers react to that and want to have a little bit more, if they're going to be with us, if they're going to be out of their house, and actually if they're going to be in their house, they want to be able to have kind of the same perspective as they think about what the impact on their environment is. So, you know, the one thing I think that has kind of happened through all this is the broader population has suddenly become aware of what it takes to make a meal every day, and sometimes what the impact on restaurants are, and actually how hard the work is, and also how valuable the food is. And so I think there's actually an opportunity here when we come out of this to double down on sustainability and ESG, and to really say this actually matters. And you know, all it takes is my daughter to, you know, be texting me pictures of clear skies in Beijing or clear water in Venice and whatnot. I think those memories are going to stay with them. So, you know, right now it's pure survival, but as we move to the next stage, it really is a more conscious approach to what those decisions are that we make in terms of what we're going to be selling and serving.
That's interesting, Brad. And I'm just curious, have any Marriott restaurants done delivery or takeout, or is that something that
Thousands.
Thousands.
Well,
Okay, good.
Yeah, so if you think about it, we actually have been on a delivery effort for the last number of years as we rethink room service and room delivery. And that honestly doesn't matter to me whether it's picked up and running up to a room or goes into a car. The whole delivery model though is very challenging. That could be another call from a cost perspective.
Super. Marie, to you, thoughts about lessons that you are seeing across the industry that you might want to share?
Me too. Yeah, I think two things are interesting there. One is this notion of family meals and bundled meals, which we've seen lots of those launched during the pandemic, and also lots of interest there. So it's about 40% of people say they've ordered these family or bundle meals, and the same percent say they will continue to do that even after the pandemic. So either taking fully prepared food home to feed four, or having like a take and bake kit of comfort food or build your own tacos kit. There's a lot of enthusiasm for that. And then also we think innovation is really important right now. You know, we don't think that people are going to want to be eating meatloaf forever, that people are going to want to see new trends. We've surveyed operators, who is the group that leads food trends, restaurants and food service operators, and 55% of them say trends are just as important as ever to their business right now. And a third of them say trends are going to be even more important moving forward. So family meals and this focus on innovation and trends would be kind of two food lessons or opportunities from my perspective.
That's interesting. Thanks. Scott, thoughts on food lessons from the last 4 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news is our supply chain is actually fairly resilient. I think there was some concern about that early on. But I think the flip side of that is the supply chain might not have gotten hit as hard as we thought it did, or there were measures put in place to mitigate it, right? So I do think there's the lesson would be, hey, really taking a look at that supply chain. Is it as safe and secure as it needs to be coming out of this? And what's the human impact on that? And there's a lot to that supply chain piece. It could have been far worse than it was. So I think as I say, the good news is it wasn't. But what do you do in a situation like this where supply chain could have been much more dramatically impacted? And I think we can probably look at retail, we can look at food service. There's, some of the products that would have normally gone to food service ended up in retail. So, there was a good sort of distribution or of products into other channels. But, and what's the human impact? Is there collateral damage, and what could have been done differently? So for us, I think that's a big piece.
That's interesting. And Sarah, how about for Panera? I know you all opened up some food markets, but food lessons that Panera has thought about.
Yeah, we've touched a few of these things. We touched those family bundles. We've done grocery stores. We've done a lot of innovation actually during this time period. I'm going to try not to be repetitive from the other answers, but a few things that I would say is one, from a food perspective, we're focusing a lot on off-premise and what that means, both in terms of packaging, but also recipes and what the food should or shouldn't be. Whether that be, again, pickup, delivery, et cetera. The model, I think we're going to have to get more, we're all going to have to get better at it. Two is that in terms of options and menu flexibility, I think we've learned two things. One is that tastes changed a lot during this time period. I think there's this pressure on comfort foods. We're seeing a backswing towards now some people who are going the opposite direction towards health. So we think that there's some variability in taste that you have to make your menu address and live into. But also, we've all had to simplify and flex our menu based off operations and overall cost of goods and supply chain constraints. And so I think we're moving from a model where we used to say, hey, I need to have the same sandwich on my menu every day of the week, to I might not be able to serve that for a month. How in the heck do I do that? Those are lessons we've had to learn, and been some tough lessons to learn. And then lastly is, interestingly, I think that we're seeing a shift in business to different day parts. For us, for example, we operate in all 3 day parts. Not everyone does. And for example, we're seeing a huge shift to dinner business that is not something that we've done in the past. So then we need to compensate to make sure, are we actually doing dinner well? So those are some interesting kind of food things that I've heard over the past few months.
That's great, Sarah. Thanks. So we actually have a great question from a member of our audience, Sarah Jurowitz, who says that she's a baking educator, and she wonders how this leadership panel would think about how to encourage baking and culinary students who desire to go into the food industry to continue to pursue that with passion and excitement. And she said, what words do you have for these teens aged 16 to 19? So I'd open up to the panel. Who might have a thought on that?
I would just comment in general, what we have learned during this time, and I know I personally learned this as well as professionally, is people in the food industry, whether you're a baker, whether you're an associate who's ringing somebody at a cash register, or a chef in the kitchen in a corporate office, you're an essential worker, honestly, within our economy, and you're necessary. I mean, you are providing something that brings people joy, excitement, and satisfaction every day. And I think right now in this time, people are actually growing a deeper appreciation for what food does for us. It brings us together. There's so many things I could say, and I don't want us to lose that enthusiasm because it's tough right now. That's what always has made our industry so great.
That's great. Kim, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I teach at Ohio State in the hospitality management program. And so I'm talking to our students all the time about staying with it and recruiting into it still. And what I can say is we talk about people still have to eat. And the choice between eating at home and eating out is still going to be there. Because we have a short period of time. Unemployment is a challenge right now, but we're looking for workers in our industry. We're looking for people who are going to be great at their jobs. Just because today doesn't look as bright as it did 6 months ago doesn't mean that it's not going to continue to be bright. And then we paint that picture where those opportunities, because people still have to eat. I know it sounds trite, and the lessons we're all learning at home is how much more we do appreciate eating out now than we did before. So I think that we have to keep that hope going, similar to what Sarah said. It is a bright future. There are some dark spots in it, don't get me wrong, and we're honest about that, but we still believe in it, and we're telling our students to believe in it.
So earlier, or we have a question here, but Brad touched on it earlier, I should say, which is, are we seeing renewed consumer interest in healthier, more sustainable menu items? And the question specifically was about planning with more plant-based products. What nutritional considerations are you taking into account as you decide to include that? So why don't we go through the panel to say, A, are you seeing consumer interest under the menus of change principles in healthier, more sustainable menu items? And can you comment maybe more specifically on how you think about nutritional considerations of plant-based products? And Kim, I think I'll go back to you because you were an early entrant into thinking about plant-based meat.
Yeah, well, our customers still want what tastes good. And then we are still pursuing all that tastes good, including the plant-based and those opportunities. And yes, we still see the need for looking at healthier alternatives for our consumers. We're not giving up on that. We believe we're planning beyond 2021. Our 100th is going to launch a lot of new initiatives around how we're going to do better in the communities and for our communities. So this is all part of what we think is important today.
Scott, do you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, what's happening in the short run isn't necessarily what's going to continue to happen in the long run. So I agree with Kim in that, yes, there's a lot of desire for comfort food, and Marie said it as well. A lot of desire for comfort food. That doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. In fact, Data Central would say that looking further out on the horizon and not that far out, there will be a need for that. So those of us that are in the world should be, if we are not testing products for 21 and beyond.
Interesting. Sarah, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that there's two things that I would hold. A little bit building on Brad's earlier comment. I actually feel like coming out of COVID, what we are seeing when we're talking to customers and as when we're thinking strategically, we're seeing a more socially responsible consumer. And it's extending outside of kind of that younger customer that you maybe box that into. We're actually seeing social responsibility bridge out. And I would liken it to this, Americans in general are individualists. But we are in the time of COVID, as well as within the time of Black Lives Matter, realizing that we as a nation have to actually start thinking with a collectivist view. And I don't think we'll get all the way to that, but that is the mind shift. And so people are starting to realize my decision actually impacts my neighbor. it impacts the world. And it's an important lesson, but it changes the consumer's perspective on brands and products. So I would say that's one thing. In terms of plant-based, we are going after it and we're continuing to grow. Month over month, we're seeing more and more interest in it, and we're seeing growth in sales in those in products across all categories that are plant-based. Specific to the nutrition question element here, when we look at plant-based items, we're looking across nutrient profiles. So it's not just about saying, hey, can I match 20 grams of protein that I'm going to get from chicken in a vegetarian item? Because that's not actually that's probably more protein than you need, most people need in a meal. And we also say, we're calculating, it gets really technical, but in plant-based proteins are incomplete, and we don't always view it that way. So we're looking at what's the fiber, what's the protein, what are the other nutrients within the other ingredients to say, is that really a truly satisfying entree that's really doing all the nutrition work it should be doing, not just protein.
That's interesting. Thanks. Marie, as you look at the industry overall, how do you think about consumer interest in healthier, more sustainable menu items, plant-based and otherwise?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. We definitely echo everyone else that it's very important. It's just as important as it was pre-pandemic. We've actually asked consumers that if you were interested in plant-based before all this happened, will you be afterward? And I think it's 84% of them said, yes, we want to see more plant-based options. And one sort of subset of that I think is interesting and will have traction moving forward is people are looking for foods right now that help with our immunity. So foods like leafy greens or citrus fruits or other plant foods that have vitamin C and vitamin D and zinc and selenium and things. That's really the functional benefit that people want right now. So we think we'll see more foods designed to help with people's immunity. And a lot of those are plant foods.
Interesting. Brad, you raised it at first, so give you the last word on this question.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's going to be one of the menu items. Again, I think it fits into this broader piece. I don't think that there's 84, I don't think there's a majority of people going to be moved to vegetarian, but that's been, called, for the last, every year that's something that's going to happen. But I think that this idea of what people are buying and eating and ordering and what its impact, I think plant-based definitely fits in, and it's definitely something that should be considered. I do want to go back to just really quickly to that earlier question you asked, which I think is really critical. And I agree with everything that the team said here, and I certainly agree with the fact that people got to eat. When I first got in this business, growing up in South Seattle, my thought was, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I know that people have to eat, so I want to get out of Seattle, and I'm going to learn how to cook. And that's kind of what I did and how I started. But I actually think that this, unlike 2008 and 9, unlike 9/11, unlike the 1991 savings loan crisis, all of which I lived through in the hotel business, I think this is different because I actually think it is proven that this industry is at risk because we need to do a better job of taking care of our people. And I don't think it's true anymore that you can always go into food and beverage because somebody always has to eat, you can always get a job anywhere. I think we have to do a better job of inspiring those students and inspiring those young folks that this actually is a safe business, that it is addressing the issues that we've had in terms of treating people. When I first got in this business, one of my very favorite chefs, a Swiss guy, threw a pan at me because I burnt something, and that was just like, oh, that's what happens. That doesn't happen anymore. Can't happen anymore. I think that this is a pivotal point for us in the business and in education to prove that the way in which the restaurant business has become what it is needs to be addressed as well. We need a lot more diversity, we need a lot more opportunity, and we need a lot more training and working with people coming forward. So, from a company like ours that has almost 800,000 associates, it's something we're focused on. But personally, I think it's about time. And then I think the rest of it will come along. So
Brad, we have about 30 seconds left. So I'm just going to ask you each quickly, if you were in the audience, what would you want somebody to know, or what would you want to know about some success that you might have that you can impart? So Sarah, I'll begin with you.
I think across, no matter how big or how small your organization is, I think we've all learned that agility is what we need to focus on every day, and not also confusing agility with chaos. We could have easily chaos and uncertainty, but if we focus on being agile and focusing our resources, we can all win.
I am so sorry, but unfortunately our time is up and we actually need to wrap up this incredible panel on that note. A huge, huge thank you to Michael and all of our panelists. Really appreciate all of your great insights. And I know everyone in the audience loved hearing from you. Thank you again, Michael. We are about to go to a networking break, and we are excited to share this short presentation with you that details all of the opportunities to network and engage with your colleagues during this upcoming break. So hang tight, and we are excited to share this with you. Thank you so much.